It was really interesting to come back to my channel after quite a while off of it to notice that I got a bunch of views on my Tim Gordon video. So I don't know how often I'll be posting on this channel. I'm focusing on another YouTube channel. I can talk about that eventually. But today I did want to go back to, maybe try to go back to a regular, at least a little bit more regular upload schedule, or at least I as I said in like the first video I ever made on this channel, I'm gonna post when I feel like posting. So I have an idea. I want to talk about confession because I just went on a retreat over New Year's, and there was a very good conference done by the priest that ran our retreat on confession, and so I wanted to convey some of that knowledge to people that might want to have a reference about confession. So essentially, obviously, first and foremost, the wage of sin is death, right? So um, we are sinful creatures, and if we have the stain of sin on our soul, we are no longer in a state of grace, and we do not have essentially, when we sin, as we all know, we break our relationship with God, right? Um, so the sacrament of confession then is there to mend that which we have fractured, to be able to receive the grace of God, and then to be able to be worthy to receive the Eucharist. So if you have a mortal sin, you can't receive the Eucharist, because St. Paul writes in one of his letters that you cannot approach the Eucharist with an unworthy soul. And that's a terrible paraphrasing of that, but I'm sure you can find it. I just remembered it off the top of my head. So the key thing to know is that, yeah, this is mortal sin, right? So something I learned in one of my classes is that a venial sin is essentially a sin analogously. I don't recall the details on that, so don't quote me on that. But essentially, there's mortal sin, venial sin, and material sin. So material sin is just like, essentially, it's just like a imperfection or like a vice that you just kind of have, and it's like very small, and it's not even like necessarily voluntary. It's just kind of like a tendency that you have in your soul. A venial sin is, you know, a small matter, and a mortal sin is a sin committed with grave matter, full knowledge, and full freedom. So you're fully aware, like, yep, I know this is bad, I'm gonna do it anyway, and you know it's a serious issue. So what I've heard at the retreat constitutes grave matter is any breaking of the 10 Commandments, except for very minor ways. So I think one of the examples of this could be, so obviously any direct breaking of the 10 Commandments, like not going to, like not keeping the Lord's Day holy, not going to Mass, obviously that's a mortal sin. Taking the Lord's name in vain, very clearly a mortal sin. You know, and then obviously like theft, murder, committing adultery, all these things are very clearly mortal sins. What might be, and like, even like the, you know, like outright, you know, bad treatment of your parents and like disrespecting your family is like mortal sin, all the same, right? And then like the venial sin there would probably be like if you're like, I don't know, I guess if you're like kind of like rude to your parents like on like one occasion, and it's just kind of like, oh, they want me to do this, but I'm just gonna like not do it. Like, I don't know, maybe that's mortal, maybe that's venial, I don't know. But in any case, there are occasions where those are venial, and I'm not saying this to make you like, I don't want you guys to be thinking like, oh no, everything's a mortal sin now, but like, yeah, confess as much as you can, go to confession as often as you can, and also like be aware of what grave matter is, because whenever, this was my biggest problem with learning about this, you know, growing up, it's always like, okay, well, so what the heck is grave matter? And there are some lists, and sometimes they would be like, oh well, sure, the 10 Commandments are grave matter, but also St. Paul also writes a list very clearly of all grave matter. And Saint Alphonsus Liguori, if you want to know every detail there is to know about grave matter and venial sin and mortal sin, Alphonsus Liguori. Check out Saint Alphonsus Liguori. You will be terrified, and you will never be worried again, because you will know exactly everything that you'll need to know about whether you're committing a mortal sin or a venial sin. I haven't read him yet, but I very much want to. So yeah, in other words, it's very possible to find out what mortal sins are. It's not like they're somewhere, out there or whatever, and like we'll never know if we commit a mortal sin or not. And if you're not sure if you commit a mortal sin or not, just go to confession, right? And if you can't go to confession, just make a spiritual communion, right? Just be like, I don't know if I'm worthy to receive the sacrament, and research. I'm not sure of the details of making spiritual communion. I'm pretty sure you just, say the prayers and just kind of like request it from God. I don't know if there's anything else that needs to be done in that case. But anyways, the point of this video is go to confession, do it often, do it like once a week, twice a week. Do daily examination of conscience if you can. Find out what mortal sins are, what grave matter is. Find out if you have any mortal sins that you need to get rid of. And when you're done that, find out if you have any venial sins that you need to get rid of. And then once you're done that, you won't be. But if you are, then work on your material sins. So always grow in virtue, always grow in holiness. We need it now more than ever. We need great saints. And if you do this, you'll be perhaps, hopefully, well on your way, at least to a certain extent. So thanks for watching. God bless.